You see him on the news.
CNN.com contributor, Dean Obadala. So, Dean...
Watch him at comedy clubs.
When I say Mecca, do you think of a holy place or an urban clothing line?
Read his articles. And you hear him on the radio. The Dean Obadala Show is on live right here on SiriusXM Progress, Channel 127.
And welcome to the Dean Obadala Show, brothers and sisters of the resistance. Tuesday, October 30th. Heavy heart. I wasn't here yesterday to talk about the horrific shooting over the weekend. We're going to talk about that a lot. Quick reminder, 7 days into the most important election of our lives. If I have to give you a reason to vote, then you're not going to vote. If you don't see the stakes, there's nothing more I can say. There's nothing more anyone can say. But for those who are woke, those who know what's going on in this country and seeing it clearly and plainly, we are 7 days away from the most important election of our lives. And I was at a town hall yesterday in Greensboro, North Carolina. I moderated Tom Steyer, our friend's, his final town hall before the midterms. And it was great. I had moderated one before in the summer in New Orleans, which was a great turnout right before Netroots Convention. And it was interesting, the difference. That one, same thing, really good turnout, very diverse crowds. This one was more locals in Greensboro. That one had people from Netroots, so they're around the country. Different ages, different races, different ethnicities there. You know, there was a 72-year-old woman who stood up early in the event. Because the whole thing is Tom really not giving speeches. It literally is, come out, we're going to play an hour of it Thursday. We just confirmed it. We have the audio. We'll play the first hour of it Thursday. Tom Steyer, literally, I go out and say, hey, welcome, blah, blah, blah. I tell a joke. Here's Tom Steyer. He comes out, talks for about 2 minutes. The rest are just Q&A. He just wants to hear from the people. And there was a 72-year-old woman who stood up and said, I'm 72 years old, and this election on Tuesday is the most important election of my life. And to hear someone say it like that, and everyone applauded, we know it. You know, when I said yesterday at his event, you can feel it. It's palpable. It's a push-pull for the soul of this country. Which direction are we going in? And what was remarkable, and I'm writing about it for the Daily Beast, and the article should go up Thursday, but you can hear an hour of the special on Thursday in the third hour yourself. In the town hall in New Orleans, it was much more about issues, about health care and issue after issue. This laser-focused was winning on November 6th. Win, win, win. What are we doing? How are we helping people? Are you getting people to the polls? What can we do to overcome gerrymandering in the future? It was very laser-focused, very pragmatic. It's about winning the election because that's what it's all about. I even asked the crowd, what's the biggest issue that you're concerned with? And they started yelling, Trump, Trump. Because they see the threat of Donald Trump to our nation. None of us had to gin it up. It wasn't like us trying to get them to say that. Tom was there to listen. It was his town hall, and I was there to listen. I love hearing from the base. I love to hear what people say. I met a woman who had been a Republican who said, I voted, because they did early voting already, and a lot of people voted. Over half the people voted. I met some listeners, Ralph, I met Chuck and Wesley, really nice guys. And Wesley actually asks a question, so you'll hear it Thursday. You can hear it directly. He talks about the show for a second, which is nice. And I didn't pay him to say nice things, folks. But there were more women there than men, and that's consistent with the polling. Polling shows, 2 weeks ago, Washington Post poll asked women around America, who are you going to vote for in the midterm? 33% said Republicans. 63% said Democrats. Donald Trump has pissed off a gender. This is the truth. He has pissed off a gender. And that gap, by the way, of Republicans, if that polling holds up to be true, will be the lowest support Republicans have ever gotten in the midterm since they've kept records since 1982. And it'll be the biggest turnout for Democrats since 1976 for women. And some people had asked a few weeks ago, do you think the women who are angry now at Trump will remember in 3 weeks to vote? I go, I can only tell you from my personal history, when you piss off women, they tend to remember. They don't forget like in 3 weeks. I can tell you that firsthand, my own relationships, that no, they are still angry. They're motivated. They're the ones leading the charge. And we heard it last night. And let's talk the big issue. We have a lot of time to talk. We're going to have one guest at the top of the next hour for just a short time. Lieutenant Governor candidate in Texas. He's going to tell us about his campaign, but also the excitement there in Texas. So we'll talk to Mike Collier in the next hour for a little bit, but I want to make time for calls. I wasn't here yesterday. And I want to share my view a little bit because, I wasn't here yesterday, so I know Tina Dupuis for hosting, did a great job. But there's a lot of sort of a game being played here about Donald Trump and his words. And did his words embolden the terrorist? And the man who went to a synagogue was a terrorist. He had a political agenda. Let's not play games. Danny Savalas will be here in the third hour. We'll talk about the distinction between terrorism and hate crimes in our laws. But when you have a political agenda, that turns your action into terrorism. That was a terrorist attack on our soil by a white supremacist. He was anti-Semitic, yes, but that is part and parcel of being a white supremacist. That was the second, maybe third white supremacist attack we've had in the last week. And, and today Donald Trump stunningly floats the idea of getting rid of birthright citizenship. You know who loves that? The Tree of Life terrorist loves that. And other white supremacists, that has been their dream for decades. They get rid of the 14th Amendment, so there's no longer birthright citizenship. That has been a dream they've harbored in their hearts, written about and talked about. And one, to stop immigrants, but second, the history of the 14th Amendment is that amendment was passed after the Civil War, and it was to overturn Dred Scott's decision, which said black people were essentially not even human beings. They couldn't be citizens. That decision, that amendment to the Constitution was specifically to overturn Dred Scott, specifically to make it clear that anybody born here is a citizen, and the focus was black Americans, slaves and former slaves. So of course white supremacists want to overturn that. What a dream. What a dream they have. And there's Donald Trump ushering in their dream. It was a heartbreaking weekend. Saturday I was at on Joy Reid's show, and I literally got bumped, and I came back on Sunday. I was sitting in the chair across from her at like 2 minutes to 11 Eastern time in the commercial break, and this news is breaking. And they go, Dean, you have to get up. There's this breaking news. And I heard this story of people being shot in their place of worship, simply praying, doing nothing more than praying. And because they were Jewish, they were marked for death by a white supremacist terrorist. That could have easily been a mosque. That's what I thought of in a second. Now the social media postings, which I wish got more coverage, showed this man hated Muslims and Jews. Sadly, the reason he targeted Jews and didn't go to a mosque, because in his view, in his postings, he called both evil, but he blamed Jews for bringing Muslim immigrants to this country. That's the same reason David Duke and other big white supremacists target Jews over Muslims, because they view Jews as having power. I'm Muslim. I'm a dirt person or a mud person, however they vilely view me. But I'm powerless. They attack Jews because their view Jews have power. So that's why that man went in there. And Donald Trump read this statement on Saturday that made me want to literally vomit. It made my soul get angry. I didn't know my soul could get angry, but my soul got angry. Donald Trump read this line saying, there must be no tolerance for anti-Semitism in America or, and this is the worst part, for any form of religious or racial hatred or prejudice. Really? There should be no place for racial or religious hatred in this country? Donald Trump is a man who used demonizing Muslims and religious hatred as the cornerstone of his campaign. And we had an opportunity to denounce anti-Semitism numerous times in the campaign. And I'll play clips. And I know you're hating for Trump, but you got to hear the clips. So there's no games being played. Trump asked point blank about anti-Semitism during the campaign and anti-Semites and refused to denounce them. And now he's saying there's no place for religious hatred in this country. And look, we all know the anti-Muslim bigotry. Things like Donald Trump saying Islam hates us. Things like Donald Trump lying and saying Muslims cheered on 9/11 in New Jersey. Saying things that didn't even get much press, like Muslim immigrants are a Trojan horse that are going to come here and kill all of us, and that Muslim immigrants are going to bring Sharia law. To, of course, Donald Trump on December 7, 2015, saying, I, Donald Trump, call for a complete and total shutdown of Muslims coming to this country. That was less of a policy statement, more of ginning up hate for his base, and 65% of Republican voters supported that statement because Trump knew it would work, and it did. As president, just last November, Donald Trump retweeted 4 vile anti-Muslim videos made by the UK's worst anti-Muslim group out there. And he retweeted, helping share their message of hate against Muslims as president of the United States. And now you don't like religious hatred. Donald Trump attack on Muslims made this attack possible because Donald Trump emboldened bigotry. You can't uncork that evil and expect it only to go to one place. When you say it's okay to demonize a faith group, that goes to other bigots as well. So these people who hate Muslims also hate Jews, the white supremacists. So they hear the man in the White House saying, it's okay to hate Muslims. It's okay to ban Muslims. Then it makes it okay for you to hate Jews. Let's not play games. This attack by this terrorist, Donald Trump plays a role in it by his open demonization of Muslims, has emboldened anti-Semites like that terrorist. There's no disputing that. And just a week and a half ago, I was at a one-day seminar conference, the world's leading countering violent extremism experts talking about issues. And they didn't mention Trump. But all of this, it's remarkable. I was just there a week and a half ago. We've seen definitely two white supremacist terrorists involved. This one and the MAGA bomber. And in Kentucky, the white man who randomly killed two black people first went to a black church. It sounded like that was going to be another horrific attack. And when it came to anti-Semitism, and I think this is really, really important because everybody knows about the anti-Muslim bigotry. When Donald Trump during the campaign was asked specifically to denounce anti-Semitism, here's one. Here is, please, I know you hate hearing from Trump, but here's a short clip. You've got to hear it. Donald Trump asked by Jake Tapper, do you denounce the Klan and David Duke? David Duke, a man who is an open anti-Semite, a man who has said that the Jews in the media are attacking Donald Trump and trying to prevent them, a man who has said Jews represent a threat to the Christian nature of this nation. Here is Donald Trump, clip number one.
KKK Grand Wizard David Duke, who recently said that voting against you at this point would be treason to your heritage. Will you unequivocally condemn David Duke and say that you don't want his vote or that of other white supremacists in this election?
Well, just so you understand, I don't know anything about David Duke, okay? I don't know anything about what you're even talking about with white supremacy or white supremacists. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know, did he endorse me or what's going on? Because, you know, I know nothing about David Duke. I know nothing about white supremacists. And so you're asking me a question that I'm supposed to be talking about people that I know nothing about.
He doesn't know anything about David Duke. He doesn't know anything about white supremacy. This was a 70-year-old man. A 70-year-old man has not heard of David Duke. In reality, we all know the truth. Donald Trump, and I documented in a CNN article, and others have as well, at that time, numerous comments about David Duke. In fact, in the past, years ago, he denounced David Duke. But when running for president and realizing he needs the votes of white supremacists and anti-Semites, he refused to denounce David Duke there. Later, he did in a very mild-mannered way. He has denounced Hillary Clinton, Elizabeth Warren, Tom Steyer, the list goes on Twitter. Never, not one tweet slamming David Duke by name. Why not? You think that's an accent? Does anyone think that's an accent? Seriously. Of course that's not an accent. That's who this man is. And then, a few months later, and this got very little press, I wrote about it at the time, trying to warn my fellow Americans because I didn't know exactly where this is going because I could never predicted what we're seeing. But I knew when you uncork hatred against Muslims and you do not denounce it clearly, any kind of bigotry or hatred, it spreads. You cannot stop it. In May of 2016, Julie Ioffe, who actually made a lot of press yesterday, she's a writer, saying Donald Trump has radicalized more people than ISIS, had written an article for GQ in which it was viewed as being critical of Melania. The result was Donald Trump's followers sent Julie Ioffe, who's Jewish, a barrage of anti-Semitic death threats, sending images to her of superimposed that she's in a concentration camp. People called, they got her cell phone number and left messages of Hitler's speeches. Hitler's speeches on a Jewish reporter's voicemail. And Wolf Blitzer asked Donald Trump specifically, do you have a message to your followers as he explained the vile anti-Semitism Julie Ioffe was getting? And here is the reaction, so you can hear it from your own ears from Donald Trump when asked specifically. Listen to this 3 times, asked, do you denounce the anti-Semitism? 3 times. And listen to his answer every time. Here's clip number 2.
And I know you hated this article in GQ about your wife, Melania. Julia Ioffe wrote it. She posted Melania was dishonest, inaccurate, a very tough piece. But since then, some of your supporters have viciously attacked this woman, Julia Ioffe, with anti-Semitic attacks, death threats. These people get so angry. What's your message to these people when something like that happens?
I haven't read the article, but I heard it was a very inaccurate article. And I heard it was a nasty article. I'm married to a woman who's a very fine woman. She's a very fine woman. She doesn't need this, Believe me. It
But
wasn't
these
even
death
like a
threats that
naked
have followed, these anti-Semitic
I don't
death
know
threats.
about that. I don't know anything about that.
But your message
you mean
should be-
fans of mine?
Suppose that
I
fans
don't
of
know.
yours
Hey,
posting these
I know
very
nothing
angry.
about it. You'll have to talk to them
But
about
your
it.
message to these fans is,
I don't have a message to the fans. A woman wrote a article that was inaccurate.
Wolf Blitzer, who is Jewish, is begging Donald Trump to do the right thing. The right thing is you say, I denounce anti-Semitism. I want to tell my followers, do not spew any hate. If you do, you're not my supporters. I don't want your support. 3 times, Donald Trump, oddly like Peter denied Jesus, 3 times Donald Trump then refused to denounce anti-Semitism on national TV when he had that opportunity. And he said, I don't have a message for my followers. Actually, that's inaccurate. He had a very strong message. What do you think that message is? When his followers hear Donald Trump not denouncing their anti-Semitism against a Jewish journalist who's been critical of the Trumps, what do you think that message is? That message is, keep it up, fellas. You're doing a great job. We know that, in fact, as the ADL documented later after the campaign wound down, there were hundreds of Jewish journalists attacked by anti-Semitic barbs by self-professed Trump supporters, including Dana Milbank, who wrote about it. I'm sure most people know Dana Milbank, writes for the Washington Post, he's on MSNBC all the time. Bethany Mandel, who's from New Jersey, who I interviewed, who I had on my show. And though she's a conservative, we don't agree on most things. To me, there's no place for partisanship when it comes to bigotry and anti-Semitism and racism. And she got so scared, they made threats to her family. She actually bought a gun to protect her family from Donald Trump's anti-Semitic followers because she had literally just tweeted criticizing Donald Trump as a journalist, and they went after her because that was the fervor they were in. This is where we are in this country. And as president, Donald Trump had another opportunity to denounce anti-Semitism. A very easy one. After everyone in the media covered this, and here they are, Charlottesville last year, August. Here's a quick clip to remind people of the white nationals. Listen to what they're saying. Clip number 3.
Jews will not replace us! Jews will not replace us! Jews will not replace us!
Jews will not replace us. Jews will not replace us. And those are the people Donald Trump said. They were very fine people on both sides. What fine people could be on that side? Trump supporters, yes. They love Trump. In fact, they cheered, Hail Trump. Hail Trump. In fact, I want to play a little bit longer of the Charlottesville people. It's cut together a few of their chants. And I want you to hear the passion in their voice. And if this chant were in German, you would expect it to be from 1930s Germany, but it's the United States of America. Let's hear clip number 4.
You will not replace us! You will not replace us! You will not replace us! Blood and soil! Blood and soil! Blood and soil! Blood and soil! Black lives matter! And black lives matter! And black lives matter! And black lives matter! And black lives matter!
They cheered Blood and Soil, which is a Nazi slogan about the idea that their ethnicity is based solely on their blood, descent, and the territory they maintain. But what it really matters doesn't mean it doesn't matter to them. It's a Nazi slogan because it is. And they cheered White Lives Matter. White Lives Matter. And Donald Trump said they're very fine people on both sides. Those are the people. Those are the white supremacist anti-Semites. And now Donald Trump says he doesn't agree with he doesn't want any religious hatred in this country. In 2017, as the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League, which monitors hate, has documented, there was a 57% spike, 57% spike in anti-Semitic hate instances, from attacks on synagogues to bomb threats against Jewish people to attacks on Jewish cemeteries. Last year, there was a horrible 15% increase in anti-Muslim hate instances, but that's been building. The year before, we had a big spike as well. Those instances include attacks on mosques being defaced with the word Trump, to a Muslim woman with hijabs being beat up, to bomb threats, to arson of mosques, to just a few months ago, 3 guys, self-professed Trump supporters known as the Crusaders, had plotted to kill Muslims in Kansas, Somali refugees. And one of them that was recorded by the FBI talked about dipping bullets in pigs' blood before they shoot them. And if that sounds familiar, because Donald Trump told that tale, that debunked tale of General Pershing doing that same thing in the Philippines and got rid of Islamic terrorism by putting his bullets in pig's blood. In fact, they were convicted. And here's the interesting part. Their sentencing is Friday, and their lawyers, it made press today, the lawyer of these terrorists who were beloved Trump fans, are citing Trump as a reason to get leniency, essentially saying they were radicalized by Trump's rhetoric. I'm not kidding. And they cite Sean Hannity and Michael Savage, saying everything they learned about Islam, they learned from them, and they were misled. And that's why they hated Muslims so much. But Donald Trump is the big part of it. This is where we are. Hate is hate. When you unleash it, there's no limit. As a Muslim, I am concerned the next story will be one of Trump's supporters going to a mosque and slaughtering Muslims. And my community knows that. That's why Muslim Americans raised over $100,000 within a day and a half to donate to the synagogue in Pittsburgh there, for the families there, and to help the synagogue itself. And I made a small donation. And I'm not patting myself on the back. I'm telling you, I had to make a donation. I had no choice. Because tomorrow it could be my community. And we need allies. Donald Trump is the enemy of all that is good. He is the friend of evil and despicable evil people. Did Donald Trump talk to this man? This guy, he didn't wear a MAGA hat, so hence Trump's not involved. This man, this terrorist, was rabidly anti-immigrant. He was a self-avowed nationalist, like Donald Trump is a nationalist. He's a man who is a white supremacist, which Donald Trump has defended, who hated Jews and hated Muslims. Well, Donald Trump made a climate where you can feel really good about yourself for hating these people. And this is where we are. I don't know what the future has for this country. The only thing I know is that we have an election November 6th, and we have the opportunity to save our nation from a Republican Party that does nothing in the face of the most vile white supremacy. The only thing they do is GOP leaders would not go with Donald Trump to Pittsburgh today because he wasn't wanted there. They wouldn't go with him. That's their way of standing up to white supremacy. The GOP has catered to and enticed and welcomed white supremacy for years. And now it's come home to roost. And there is a vile evil among the base of that party. Not all of them, but it's there. So it's up to us. What are we going to do? If you know anyone who's not thinking about voting, November 6th, vote Democrats Save America. It's that simple. If you believe in values such as the values of this nation. Because this is what this fight is about. It's about the soul of the country. It is Judgment Day. I've been saying that for a year and a half, and I never felt it more passionately than today. This is Judgment Day for our nation. What's it going to be? It's up to you. You have all the power in your hand. I know if you're listening, you're going to do the right thing. But make sure your friends and family who might not, get them to vote. Bring a friend, 2 friends, 3 friends to vote. Let's save our nation. We have the power. It is the calling of this generation. Again, not a generation defined by age, but by values and vision of what this country is supposed to stand for. What does it mean? Is it Trump's vision where they celebrate cruelty and racism and bigotry and sexism? Or is it a vision of this nation that's compassionate and caring? One where we believe government can help people and not hurt people. Where it's not just for the top 1%, but for all Americans. It's our time. So let's take a break. I want to hear from you. I talked about we're going to have a lot of time to talk. I wasn't here yesterday, so I combined 2 things I want to talk about in one monologue. 866-997-474. Give me a call right here on the Dean Obeidallah Show. Love to hear, where are we going? What can we do more to inspire people to get out and vote? What can you do? What can you share that you're doing to get friends and family who might not want to vote because they don't think their vote matters anymore to convince them it does? Give me a call. We'll be right back. Progressive values are the best of American values, and we need to keep fighting for them to save our country.
Don't go anywhere. This is the Dean Obeidallah Show on Sirius XM Progress 127.